Welcome back to another episode of the Cameras and Coffee podcast. I am sitting here with Nada Salvatori from Timeline Pro, and we are going to talk about an app for your phone that can help you stay on track for a wedding day. Welcome, Nada.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. I'm so excited to share this with you guys.
This is something I am very particular on for shooting a wedding day, and I actually offer timeline services. So I'm really excited to dig into this and kind of talk about something that can make our jobs easier.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dig in. Before we get started, what are you
Mhm.
drinking this morning?
Oh, I'm double fisting here. So I have a chai latte from
Oh, yum.
Iliana's, which is a cute little coffee shop here in town. And then I have my water on my non-Stanley cup. It's a
I don't own
Reebok,
one either.
Reebok
I
cup,
love it.
guys, because,
I'm not
they're
about
all the same.
buying.
Just keep
Yep,
it simple. I'm all
really
about
are.
keeping it simple and efficient. So.
My family bought me this mug for Christmas. It has like
uh
a little donut in it. I can't
Oh,
really if
cute.
you're watching the
Oh, yeah,
video.
yeah.
So like when you get to the bottom, there's like a stand-up donut
I've
in it.
seen it. That's so cute.
So I was like, oh, I'll use a fun one today.
I love it.
Um, yeah, so kind of talk to me a little bit about your career path. Like, what does that look like? I know you said you own two businesses, but you didn't always do photography, did you? Kind of tell us
No.
where you started and how you are to where you are now.
Yes, it is a crazy journey for sure. So, I'm originally from Brazil. So I came to the US under a volleyball scholarship to go
Mm.
to college. And before I even came here, I was already studying physical therapy. So that was what I was passionate about, and I wanted to do it, and I love treating people. So when I came here and understood that was a doctorate level degree, that's what I was, determined to do, and I did it. I graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University with my doctor of physical therapy degree, and happily went into residency and fellowship training for PTs, which was very rare at the time. It's still not the standard of the profession right now, but so I have the kind of training that less than 1% of the profession has.
Wow.
So with residency and fellowship, and I have dual board certifications in orthopedics
Wow.
and manual therapy, so sports. So very, very into the training, love what I did. Did it for many years. And then there was some just transition in the company with some changes that led me to go through this mental exercise of like, if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? What
Mm.
would be the other options out there for me? And I had a list of three things. One of
Okay.
them was to go to medical school
Hmm.
and do some surgery because your girl loves some anatomy. Um, the second thing was interior designing. I love decorating. I love, just putting things together. It's like that feel of like putting a vision into
Yeah.
reality. And then photography was the third thing on my list, not necessarily in that order, but those are the three things. And I had a camera that I got when my younger one was born, and I haven't really taken the time to learn, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start just learning how to use this camera and just see what I can do with it. And that led me to where we are today, basically transition
Mm.
into started as a side hustle. And then during the pandemic, I was still seeing a little bit of patients, kind of doing a little bit of both. And then finally went full time shortly after that. That was my second year in
Wow.
business. It was during the pandemic. Quickly was able to actually made six figures during the pandemic
Wow.
with photography, which I know it's not the normal
Yeah.
story out there. Um, and evolved to now having two photography businesses. I do education for photographers on the business side because I love the business side of things, and I think we should definitely invest into understanding that. And then I created Timeline Pro to help other photographers out there. So I guess four businesses right now
Yeah. Right.
that I'm running. I'm just passionate about new ideas and creating things that facilitate people to have the life that they want. So
I love that.
yeah,
Oh man. Yeah, that's a lot. Oh my gosh. And you have two
two
kids, correct?
kids, two
Yes.
kids. Yes,
And how old are
exactly.
they?
They are 7 and 9. My older
Okay.
one's almost 10. She's about to turn 10. So
Yeah. So all in the process of when they were little. That's a lot
yes,
when kids are that young.
yeah.
um,
But it was also
wow.
the
Wow.
time where they were starting to be old enough to notice if I was around or not.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is part of what led me to transition to having something that's more flexible, where I
Mm,
can be more of
yeah.
my own boss and make my hours. So
Yeah. Which it's funny because do you find for yourself when you say like you work for yourself, do you work more than you probably would have when
I
you
did
were?
for the first few years. I was
Yes.
up until 12, 1, 2 in the morning, working. I work really well
Those
at night
hustle
because
years, right?
yeah, because there's nothing going on. Nobody's texting me. I'm not getting emails. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of quiet. So I did work a lot. I was always somebody who worked a lot. Like I had
Yeah,
3
me
jobs
too.
during physical therapy school. So I was my brain needs a lot going on. I can't just do one thing at a time. I get mentally bored really fast.
Mm, yeah.
So yes, you definitely ended up working a lot more, but I was good at creating new habits and barriers for myself in the last couple of years and being able to,
That's good.
when I go pick up the kids at 5 o'clock, I come back, I make dinner, and I'll take a shower and then I go watch something on my phone or just, do something
Mm-hmm.
different than going back to the computer and doing some work, which I know it's hard to do. It's hard for me to do, but
Yeah.
I think it's just good for us. We know it's good. It's just hard to do.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your education part of your business look like? Like what kinds of things do you educate photographers in?
Yeah, I love it. So I know for a fact that if you really focus on the business side of your business, things can grow really fast. I think as creatives, people tend to. I feel like people tend to use that term as a almost as an excuse not to work on their business. Sometimes they're like, "Oh,
Mm,
I'm a creative. Like I hate
yeah.
making stuff. I hate the numbers." I'm like, but
But
if
then they
you
also
don't
complain that their
yeah,
business isn't
it's like if
growing.
you don't pay attention to that, then you can't
Yeah.
take the amazing pictures that you want to take. So, bringing with me a lot of the skills that I learned by like managing clinics and creating programs and standardizing practice in the
Mhm.
healthcare world into my business in photography. That's how I was able to go from 17,000 to 126,000 in the second year, and and so on, and being able to grow to multiple six figures year after year, because I do pay attention to the business part of things, and I'm not just
Mm,
working on the business, I'm working in the business. I'm doing both of
yeah.
them. It's very important. So I love helping people to understand, like fall in love with the business part of their
Yeah.
business is really the important thing, and liking it as much as you like taking pictures. So making it simple so people can understand, wrap their head around it, and be excited about it, so they can thrive and make the money that they want to make. So that's
Yeah.
that's basically what I focus on my coaching.
I love that.
Yeah,
It is something that I wish that I particularly went back to go do business classes because there's times where I'm like, I don't know any about the taxes and all that stuff. And
yeah,
sometimes you can do that for yourself instead of hiring it out. But at the same point, outsourcing can be good in some ways so
yeah.
you can grow in others. So sometimes you just need that coach to like push you along and say, this is where you're getting hung up and
Hmm.
this is where you need to move to so that you can grow further in your business in these areas. And sometimes you just need
Yeah.
someone like you to like push that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, getting mentored and getting coached was always a part of my life in physical
Mm,
therapy. I was mentored and coached, and I was a mentor and a coach for many many years. So I have that in my mind, and I know that it's a huge benefit to have somebody that already walked through that path to just help you like navigate it and get you excited about both sides of things, and
yeah.
understanding that you need that you need them both to be in
Yeah.
there. And I'm a big proponent of delegating things when it's
Mm,
outside of your skill set. However, I think it's very important to understand what you're delegating first, and then you can delegate, because that allows you to have control over things. So
yeah.
do I do my taxes? No, I have somebody that does it, but you better be knowing that I understand how to do my taxes. I understand what
Mm,
needs to be write off. I understand advantages and disadvantages of certain things, and so I have the knowledge, so I can have that conversation with the person that
Yeah.
I'm delegating things. I can
And
make
have
sure that they're
everything
doing the right thing.
organized too,
I'm
right?
just not, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just not spending my time doing it, but I for sure can have a conversation about what's wrong and what's right and what should be done. So
Yeah, for sure. So what do you primarily photograph? Tell me all the things. Like,
yeah,
where did you start with photography and then where are you now?
I started with families, so it was
Same.
basically the first thing I did was a free session to a friend, a physical therapy friend, and her family, and then in that second session, I started charging already. So I did one free
Wow.
session, and I started charging, so I did families for a while until I got the opportunity to shoot my first wedding. It was like 4 months into my journey as a
Wow.
photographer, and I was ready for it, and I got those $500 for my first wedding and
Which is
all the
bananas when you
all
think of
that
that
money.
now.
And I've always enjoyed situations that are like where you under pressure, right? So it's
Mm,
recognized as
yeah.
stressful or under pressure. I've thrive in those environments. I was a professional athlete, so I have no problem with having eyes on me and having people watching what I'm doing, and having the
Yeah.
pressure and having to figure it out. So I think that's why I fell in love with weddings, which is what I do mostly
Yeah.
now. Um, so I'm a wedding photographer, and I absolutely love it. I think that I can understand how some people can have a hard time and feel pressured and feel like that's not for them. And at the same time, I enjoy the ability to be there as the expert and guide my clients and be the
Yeah.
sounding board and be the person that they go to feel calm and and comforted. And I feel like if you understand, if you have a good process, if you have a good team, if you're prepared, then the day can go by really easy and
Yeah.
stressless. I think stress is created whenever there's no preparation and no control
Yep.
and no adaptability, because there's a lot that is not under our control on the wedding day.
Oh, for sure.
um, so I think a lot of those transferable skills from being in healthcare, what was what in sports, was what helped me to thrive on the wedding um, situation.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think about a wedding day sometimes like being in an ER.
Yeah, yeah,
Trauma center, you know? Like you can prepare as much as possible and sometimes the experience helps things go a little quicker and like understand the knowledge and gets you to that
hmm,
point, but a good team makes a huge difference.
yep,
Being prepared makes a huge difference and just having a personality of just throw it at me and I will assess and figure it out. Um, Makes a huge difference as well.
I
So
agree.
I kind of think of it in terms of that as we talk about the medical field and things like that. And definitely when talking about being prepared, a timeline is probably your biggest asset. I'm
Yeah,
sure you would agree.
absolutely. I think it helps to take a lot of the stress off of the couples.
Mm,
Helps
yeah.
you be in control of a lot of things that you are dependent on for your pictures, right? So I
Hmm.
actually send some questions. I build my clients' timelines 6 months before the wedding.
Same.
Yeah, and that might
I
sound
mean,
crazy
if
to
they
some
book me at
people.
least. If it's
Yeah,
shorter than that, we're doing it
right.
immediately, but
It
yes.
might sound crazy to some people, but by doing that, I know my timeline is going to be the first one that everybody's going to look at. I know the planners are going to use that timeline to kind of build the rest of the day around. So I'm now have control over the things that I need to have control to get the pictures that I need to get. So
Yeah.
I am not waiting for anybody to send me a timeline and then try to fight them for the times that are not right
Mm-mm.
for me. So I'm being proactive and taking control in sending that timeline way ahead of time, so I can help decisions be made of like what time hair and makeup needs to be done, what time we're doing the ceremony, so we can catch the better light and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely a huge I think stress reliever to have that good
Yeah.
timeline in hand.
Well, and I think you just hit the nail on the head when you say being proactive because what makes a
Mhm.
good wedding vendor is someone who does that because when you are being reactive on a wedding day, you've already lost so much time, so much, I don't know, like anything that
Credibility.
could go.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just for photographers, it can be for multiple people
Mhm.
that are working on a wedding day, but being proactive is huge. And knowing and also educating your clients so they know what to expect and how to make those decisions. Because I mean,
They don't
9
know what they
times
don't
out
know.
of 10, they don't know what they're doing, you know? They're
Exactly.
looking to you, the wedding professional, to tell them, like, their options, and if this doesn't make sense in their decision, just kind of
Mhm.
letting them know, like, an alternative, but ultimately, it's their decision. So,
Yep,
yeah, that's so
100%.
good. So, what would you find to be a major pain point on a wedding day that you find?
I think one of the things that I notice a lot, especially when I coach people or just talking to other photographers, is I feel like people are, and this might be a little bit of my hot take too at the same time, like people are too focused on getting the pictures that they want to get for their portfolio,
Oh, so true.
and they forget that they're there providing a service to the client, which is
Mhm.
the couple. If my couple says, I want to take 10 minutes of pictures and I want to go to my cocktail hour, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're
Mhm.
going to take 10 minutes of pictures and they're going to go enjoy their cocktail hour. I am not there for myself. I'm there to serve
Yep.
them. Um, People have different ideas. I feel like this younger generation is very into the relationships and connections and spending time
Yes.
with their friends and family, which is
Oh,
amazing.
so good. Yeah.
And definitely, I'm a big proponent of that. So, I'm not going to be trying to hold them beyond what they want to
Mhm.
be, time wise, and worry about my taking pictures and creating this really cool shot. Like, yes, it's great to be creative if you have the time to be creative. If you took
Yeah.
your safe shots and then you have some extra 10 minutes, let's do something fun. And your
Mhm.
couple is up to it, but it's not for me. This
Yeah.
gallery is not for me. These photos are not for me. Oh, but this photo is a very cheesy one. Everybody has it in their gallery. Well, it's the first time that that couple's getting that
Yeah.
picture. For them, it's new and unique. So it doesn't matter if I already took that picture 500 times. I
Yeah.
will gladly take it again. So just getting off
Exactly.
of that mindset that this is for me, and
Mm.
understanding that you're serving a client, you are a service provider, and you're there for them. So just stepping into that
Yeah.
position, I think that's it helps a lot, and it's something that people run
Mhm.
into very often on the wedding industry.
And I think it's important too to ask them in your questionnaires ahead of time and even face to face, what do you value? Do you value portrait
Mhm.
time? And being honest with them saying, okay, like your timeline is looking like this. If we only have 10 minutes of portrait time, are you okay with that?
Yep.
Because you could go away with not very many portraits. And if you're okay with that, I'm on board. But
Yep.
yeah, it's just being honest.
Setting
But I
expectations, right?
think everyone feels like they need to take photos of a wedding so they can be published or share and like share on all their socials something they're
Mhm.
proud of. But honestly, like, yeah, go through a lens of that, but and be proud of your work and have a standard of excellence, but also remember that it is about the couple and not about you and your
Yeah.
portfolio is huge. So I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
that is something that I'm noticing more and more is such a struggle. And a lot of times it's
Mhm.
with the ones who are trying to build up their portfolio. And so they struggle with knowing the difference between the two. But
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, this newer generation is so relational. And I love that.
Yes,
I'm here
I
for it
do too.
because that cocktail hour, I find a lot of times, at least here in the Midwest, where people feel like that is time for taking pictures. And I I hate when they feel like their whole reception is mingling and they can't have fun. And it's
Yeah.
like your cocktail hour is meant for you to go to grab a snack and mingle with your guests so that you can enjoy yourself the rest of the evening for what you spent all this money
Exactly.
on, you know? Um
Dancing, yeah, enjoy
yeah.
it.
Which is why I'm always like, if you are interested in doing a first look or getting everything out of the way beforehand, I highly recommend it if you
Yeah,
value spending time with your guests in the evening or after your ceremony. So that's
100%.
and that's where that questionnaire comes into play. Like, what do you value is
Mhm.
huge in asking them ahead of time because that's going to help you know, like, I strongly suggest you doing a first look if you want this, this, and this. And if not, and seeing each other for the first time in the aisle is huge to you, what can we get done ahead of time so that you can go and enjoy the rest of the day? For sure.
Exactly.
Um, so let's kind of talk about what you have designed. So what did you see was an issue and what got you to where you are now with Timeline Pro?
So I am not, obviously, a lot of times what we do is you print that timeline on a piece of paper, right? And you take it with
Mhm.
you to the venue. Well, one, so my brand is, I'm very professional. I try to make sure that they feel like this is high level. They pay a lot of money for me to be there, meaning I am dressed nicely. So holding something where I can fold this piece of paper and it's stuck in a pocket doesn't really work for me, number one. Number two, you put it down somewhere, maybe on the getting ready room when you're
That's me,
taking
I'm
some
guilty.
pictures, and then you walk away and now you're in the
Where
reception,
is it?
like, forgot a damn paper in the hotel room. So now you don't have it. Now you're trying to look on your
Yes.
phone, see if you can, download it again. And maybe you wrote some notes in there that are things that other people shouldn't see. Maybe there's
Oh, for
something
sure.
about, parents are divorced and they don't like each other, they don't want to take pictures together, and you wrote that down on that piece of paper and now you left it behind. And there's
And
still
then they're gonna
bridesmaids in
find
here.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's like it's just not effective. It is
Mhm.
not practical. So what I used to do is I would create my timeline online, and it looked pretty, and I would just take a picture and have that on my
Yep.
phone. So we have our phones with us all the time. We're using it to communicate with our second shooter. We're using it to communicate with a planner. You're going to have it. It's on you. So why
Yeah.
not have an app that carries that timeline with you, that you can, use it for different things, but like, let's make it functional. Let's make it so it's on the palm of your hand, easy to access, and it's not visible to people that shouldn't be looking at it.
Yeah.
And you can then, share with your clients. And so there's lots of functionalities to it, but it came out of the need to have something practical on my phone that I can access at any time wherever I am, and I don't have to worry about leaving a piece of paper behind or printing something. I mean, not everybody has a printer at home,
Oh, for
So
sure.
starting from there, so having to, be downloading it from your phone, and then you have like 10 timelines that you got from other people. So it's just not practical.
Yeah. Well, in a space too where you think about this, like have you noticed anyone else having anything like this where they have an app to do timelines?
So the concept of a timeline app for photographers and planners, it's very new. So there are services that are on web based. So we have like
Mm,
Timeline Genius, and we have IO Planner that planners use, right? So
yeah.
they're web based. They're not an app necessarily.
Mm, okay.
So there is no other app out there that we know
Okay.
of. We've looked because you do like that competitive analysis and all that. Like there is
Yeah.
nothing out there that does what we do, that is on an app format. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a very unique idea. And again, something that we've been building more and more and making changes as we get feedback from people. So
Yeah.
I just right before I got on the computer with you, I was in a meeting with the developing team to talk about some newer features that we want to work on. So it's still evolving.
Yeah.
And if I know myself, we're gonna be making changes and make it as good as we can make.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you always there's always things where you're like, well, what about this option? What about this option? But
yeah,
trying to find how to
yeah,
make that work and is it working for everybody? And like it might work for one person and how they do it. So yeah, there's a
yeah.
lot that goes into it behind
Oh
the
yeah.
scenes for sure.
We might think it's easy. Oh, you can just do this or just add that. And
Uh-huh.
then the developer side, they're like, oh well, yeah, that's gonna that's
Yep.
gonna take some time and
Of
some work.
course.
And so
So kind of tell us what are some of the features in this app that photographers or wedding professionals in general might want to
mhm.
know, even event people who do
Yep.
events and things like that could use this. So tell us, like, what are some of the things that it offers?
hmm So our target populations right now are wedding photographers, wedding planners, event planners, videographers. So people that would be touching that timeline and need to
Mm,
kind of organize their day. So what I created is something that as soon as you come in, you can create a timeline from scratch. So there's a little questionnaire that you answer that's going to ask some important questions like what time is the ceremony, the
mhm.
location, the duration of things, your reception, and all that. And once you input that information, it actually spits out a timeline for you that distributes that time. So let's say if you create an 8-hour timeline or a 10-hour timeline, it will distribute the time
I
between the
love
steps
that.
already for you. So if you've never created a timeline before in your life, this is a great way to start.
Yeah.
Um, and it has specific steps there that are common to most of us. So detail shots, the getting ready portion, the first look, the ceremony, but it's very customizable. So let's say you are a photographer that never does detail shots because you just don't believe it that should be done. You can just erase that step completely. Um, so you can get rid of that. You can modify the titles and the descriptions of each one of those steps. You can make it your own 100%. And you can change, adjust the times. So I usually create my timeline and then I go in and like might tweak the times a little bit because maybe there's a extra step that's not in there. Maybe they want to do an additional first look with bridesmaids and dad, and that's not
All
and
the
that's
first
not
looks
yeah,
that are on
all
Pinterest.
the
Let's
first
do
look.
all of them.
And that's not a step that is already built in there. So it's a step that
Mhm.
I have to add every time. So I add that step, I put it where I want it to be, and then I have to adjust the time a little bit. So it's very customizable. There's a notes section at the bottom of it where you can write like other vendors information for you can write
Mm, love that.
address of where you're going, you can write phone numbers, you can write any notes that you want, like they're doing a sparkler exit or they want whatever they requested a picture with Aunt Joanne from New York. Whatever notes you need to have that you don't need anybody to see
Yeah.
or go on the bottom of your timeline. um, so that's there, and then once the timeline is ready, there's a few things you can do with it. One, as the day goes by, you can swipe the steps to mark what has been done and
Mm,
give you a visual where you are in that timeline.
yeah.
There's a pre-built shot list. Ooh, I don't know where they're making all these.
It
Yes.
was
I guess I
exciting.
need to keep my hands down. Jeez.
Oh,
Fine.
man.
So I swear, I
If you're
think it's
watching the video, we're getting some
girl.
exciting
Yes.
visuals.
Fireworks. There are fireworks going, guys. The world is excited about timeline prep. Anyways, we have these so you have the opportunity to share that timeline with your clients. So
Mm,
you can share with them, which is very easy. It goes in a link that they click on it and they access the timeline. Is a different view than the view you have. So it doesn't have that notes
good to
section in
know.
there. It looks very nice and professional, and you can also customize it with your brand colors under our annual
Love
plan.
that.
There's some customization, so you can keep it on the brand colors in there. Um, so that's part of it, which is really cool. So you can share with other vendors. So let's say you're a photographer, you made a timeline, you can send it to the planner, you can send it to the couple. um, People can make comments on your timeline. They cannot change it because you don't want people being able to change your
Oh, yeah.
timeline. That would be a bad idea. So they can actually make comments on the timeline for you to address it, and you get notifications that a comment was made, and you can choose to go into the timeline and make the modification. And then I was talking about when we had fireworks was a shot list. So there's a
Yeah.
shot list that is pre-built in there on each step. You can add your own steps to it. We are in the process of changing, so you can create your own shot list, or you can just use the one that we give it to you because it's
Nice.
pretty comprehensive, and you can check mark those as you go by too. So it also gives you the sunset time for the day once you input the date of the timeline,
Oh
which I
my
think is
gosh.
very
I love
helpful for
that.
us. So lots of features, keeping communication all in one place. So now you don't have to go look for emails because the vendors can communicate with you through sending comments into the app.
Love that.
Your couple can do it. So visually very pleasant. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's efficient. Very customizable. And lots of good features there for you.
That's so good. And I know I've tried the free version. So you offer a free trial for 14 days, is it?
Yeah, we have a free trial for 10
Yeah.
days.
Oh, 10
Mhm.
days.
Yeah, 10
And
days.
then there's two options, right? An annual plan or a monthly plan, or do I have
Correct.
that incorrect? Okay.
Mhm. Yep.
Um so what is in like the free version when it comes to that trial? What do they get to try out when they first?
Yeah, you're gonna be able to create a timeline, and just kind of play with it and see how it feels to you, and how you can utilize it on the wedding day. What you will not be able to do is create unlimited timelines. You're gonna have, that for
Yes.
create that for 10 for so you can create that one timeline. You cannot share it yet. Until you get to the monthly plan or annual plan. So when
Mhm.
you get to those, you can share on the monthly plan. You have 4 timelines a month that you can create, and you can share it with your clients. And when you get to the annual plan, you're talking about unlimited timelines, and you can share it and you can customize the colors for the client view with your brand colors.
I love that. Cuz yeah, you want it to look professional, you want to have all the things.
Yeah.
I know when I did the free version, my question was, is there room for a shot list? Can I check that off because that is something I majorly do. But I love how you said it allows you to enter the certain information in the beginning and then builds that timeline, because that when I have a timeline meeting with my couples, I always say,
Mhm.
"Okay, tell me the time of the ceremony and the time catering starts, because those are the things that stand still. And then I work
Mhm.
before and after those things just to make sure we know the structure." And
Yeah.
I love that you can just put that in and it like builds that for
Yep.
you. Um, and I also love that you can list your vendors, because that's
Yeah.
huge. Keeping that all into communication, sharing, because I'm always reaching out with vendors beforehand and say, here's the timeline that I have. If anything needs to change, let me know. I did not know you could comment in there. That is really cool. So you
Yeah.
can communicate that way and kind of know from there.
Hmm.
Something I did want to know, like, let's say I have first look at 1:30 in the afternoon. Does it alert you when those things are happening? Does it not? Is that something maybe you're like, maybe put that in as a suggestion?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because
I
those
did.
are things where I'm wondering.
Yeah, it does not alert you because I'm always concerned about your phone making noise
Mm,
when it shouldn't during a
yeah.
during a wedding. And even outside of the ceremony, that maybe you have video in there and they're reading their vows, and we're like, ding. The last thing you want is
Yes.
something alerting. So I did not put that functionality in there. Um, I used to, at the beginning of my wedding days, set little alarms for myself,
Oh,
like
yeah.
five
Same.
minutes before the next thing was due. I don't do that anymore because it drove me insane, and it would like do exactly what I was like. I'm pretty
Yes.
good at like pulling that phone often enough that like I will look at, I know where the next thing is coming and what time that next thing
Mhm.
is, and that's what I'm focusing on. Um, so it doesn't do that right now. I don't know if that, it's definitely something you could do, but I don't know if that's something we will ever add in there. Maybe you can have
I
it.
love it.
Maybe you can
Only
have it in
silent
like
options.
silent. Yeah, yeah. You have to be definitely a silent option.
I love it.
But that was my
Well,
concern of not, in thought process of not including that.
yeah. Well, and it's funny because the pain points I know a lot of people have on the wedding day are people constantly asking about the timeline. Like,
Mhm.
when do we do this? When do we
Share that
do
link,
that? And then you're
maybe.
constantly looking it up. And for me, I had a photographer friend suggest this to me, because I say, like, save it as a Safari on your app, because I use Dubsado and I just create one in there. But I like this idea because then I'm not having to do like a screenshot and leave it on my home
Yeah.
screen and all that stuff. Like, I can just open the app and be like, here it is.
Yep.
um, so my next question, those who struggle with the whole paper copy thing or the fear of what happens if my phone dies, what do I do?
Mhm.
Is there an option to print if needed?
Yeah, you can download a version of the timeline,
Like a
so you
hard
can,
copy?
yeah, you can hit that download button, or you can even email it to yourself, and then you can print a hard copy and bring it with you as well. So yeah.
That's good. Because I'm always afraid that my battery's gonna run out by the end of the day with content creation and all the things, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're like, "What happens if my phone dies?" I mean, at that point, I'm, like, bringing an external battery to, like, charge my phone
yeah.
throughout the day,
You
but
would need that
still,
phone most
you
likely,
know,
so
technology happens, and so sometimes you just want that backup. So
there is definitely a printable version of it, so you can send it to
nice.
yourself, or you can. There is a download button on the membership and the pay membership portions
Love
of
that.
the timeline. Yeah.
Oh, so many good things. And I love when I found that this was an option, I was actually searching
Hmm.
timeline stuff and I wanted to talk to someone about timelines on here because they are
Yay!
so important. And when I found out this was an app option, I was like, I am so interested and intrigued in this because I mean, it's very affordable, guys. So, like, when you check this out, like, you're just going to be blown away. So as we kind of pivot, I want to actually ask you and go back to the whole physical therapist thing
Mhm.
from a person in photography. I mean, photographing weddings is hard on our bodies, people. Like if you don't do it or if you do, you know. So what would you say is a good piece of advice as far as physical therapy for a wedding photographer? Like what would you say? What should
Yeah.
they know?
There's a few things we can focus on. So I always tell people it's the hardest thing to train for because we're going from being sedentary for many
Oh,
hours to
for
being like
real.
super active and going carrying equipment, going up and down stairs, squatting, standing for 10, 12 hours. So how do you train your body for that? So you train your body for the hardest level of activity that you're going to have. So obviously, exercising is good as far as being strong. So I'm talking building muscles in your
Yeah.
legs, building muscles in your back, right? So those are the ones
Yep.
that are going to sustain you during that high level activity. Um, Losing the more weight, the less weight you have in your body, the less weight it's going to be in your joints. Like I
Mm,
recently made a goal to lose weight and lost 50 pounds. And boy, it makes a huge difference on the wedding day, not having those pounds on
I'm
me.
sure.
So, um,
Yeah.
working on being healthy overall, I think it helps a lot. Staying hydrated, it's a huge thing.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
Good shoes. Oh my goodness gracious, good shoes. So I
Let's talk
struggle.
about that.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your favorite wedding shoes?
So I struggle with that, to be honest with you,
It is
because
someone needs to design, like, a beautiful orthopedic
yeah, give
for
me
the craft
that'll be
of
my next
wedding
company, Tara. I'll do that next. I'll
because
come for you,
comfy and fashionable never go hand in
right?
hand, right?
So
Like, I'm a Dr. Scholl's girl. I try to get the
yeah,
nicest looking Dr. Scholl's
yeah,
to wear because I need arch support.
yeah. It is a struggle. So nowadays, the only thing that hurts for me at the end of the day is the sole of my feet.
Mm,
That's my one pain that I have. And when I get off my car, when I get home, and I drove 30 minutes to get home, and I get off my car, and I'm like, oh, like I'm walking, like I'm stepping on,
yeah.
you know, glass because that's where it hurts. So and I, like I said earlier, I dress very nicely, which means
Mhm.
you're not going to catch me wearing tennis shoes unless we're trying to be cute and have the white tennis shoes with some black and something like that, which I only do when I have like maybe two weddings in a row or three weddings in a row and I know my feet are
Yeah.
going to be destroyed. So, I try to be mindful and wear nice shoes. Um, what I've learned to do that has been really helpful for me is whatever shoe you decide to wear, have a second pair that you change into at the beginning of the reception. So
Mm,
go through half of the wedding with one shoe, whatever nicer
okay.
look, maybe a nicer looking shoe. And then when you sit down to eat that dinner, if you're having that break during reception, that's when you change your shoes. Even if your feet is not hurting, it just gives the bottom of your foot some new input and it kind of
Mm,
refreshes it up a little bit and it helps you feel, it changes how you're feeling. You're not going to feel as
yeah.
tired and feel a little bit more rested. So changing the shoe to a second pair of shoe, whatever it is, whatever it looks like.
Do you
Um,
feel like that second shoe should be more support? Less support?
yeah,
Does it
I
not
change it to a
matter?
nicer, like a more support, less cute shoot on the
Okay.
reception,
Which
lights
you
are
usually can
down.
do because it start getting dark around
Lights
that
are
time, right?
down, and people are dancing and drinking. They've seen you, they've watched you during the ceremony. They're not too concerned about. People look at my feet a lot because I'm 6'2", so I'm
Oh
tall.
my gosh, I did
So
not know
whenever,
that.
yeah, whenever people look at me, the first thing they do is they look to see if I'm wearing heels,
No wonder
right?
you played volleyball. You must have
Right?
been quite the spiker.
Uh, so
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
very like aware that people look at my feet very often. So I want to make sure that I'm looking professional and looking apart to what I'm charging.
Mm,
I'm charging
yeah.
high price. I'm not going to be showing up with tennis shoes. That's okay if that's what you do for your business. No, nothing wrong with that. It's my personal choice not to do that. So I try to find, Dr. Scholl's have great options with some
Yeah.
comfortable slash cute shoes. But I am on the constant search for that holy grail shoe, girl.
Well,
It's
it's
me.
interesting because I actually was talking last season with a friend of mine because I've been having like rotator cuff issues because what kind of
Mhm.
camera do you use? Are you a Canon girl? Are you
That's
a Nikon?
Sony's.
Sony's.
The
Okay.
lighter cameras that
So,
you can
yes, they
carry.
are lighter because the Canon one I have in my
They're heavy.
favorite lens, the 28 to 70, is like a beast. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say with everything on there, it's like almost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that with one hand and holding it like this, like out in front of you or by your side. I mean, I have the spider belt where you like click it in,
Mm,
but yeah, it all depends. Like, are you putting all that weight on your waist? Are you putting on your back with like a hold fast, or are you just
yeah.
carrying a camera around all day? Oh, I think you should invest in, and I would totally sign up for this education on how to condition your body for wedding day
That's a good
for
idea. I'm gonna add
photographers,
that.
girl. I would be all about that. Invest, like, sign me up so I can
It's a
get
good idea.
ready. That would
We'll
be.
get you a complimentary seat on that one if I come up with it for
Oh
the
my gosh.
idea.
I've always said, like, we should make videos on, like, how to condition, like, the Rocky moment, like, getting
Yeah,
ready for wedding day.
look at you.
It's so
I like
crazy.
it.
Oh,
We'll make
for
it
real.
happen. I'll put it on my to-do list.
It could be your 5th business. I love it. Well, last question for you, Nada. Where can we find you on the web? All the places.
All the places. So for Timeline Pro, Timeline Pro app is our Instagram, and timelineproapp.com is our website. The website goes really in depth into the features, so I definitely recommend taking a look at it. Um, for photography, wedding photography business is NS, Nada Salvatori. NS Photo Book Weddings is where you find my photography work. And for coaching and education is Photo Biz Education. So BIZ, Photo Biz Education is my education and coaching.
I love that. And can you find the app on what devices can you use it on?
Both. I was an
Oh,
Android user not too long ago, so I made sure I didn't leave my Android people behind.
oh, I
So
love
both
it.
App Store and Google Store carry our
Love
app.
that. And if you are looking for the Cameras and Coffee podcast, you can find that at karahansphotography.com/podcast and on Instagram and TikTok at Cameras and Coffee Podcast. Nada, thank you so much for coming on, talking about this wonderful app. I'm so excited to share it with all of our listeners and beyond. I hope it's super successful. We all need this. Oh, so good. Love
My
it.
pleasure.
Friends, this completes our episode. And until next time, I want to say cheers.